I have some more thoughts I need to share on censorship, which is that people should be allowed to say whatever they want when it comes to their opinions and their views and their beliefs. But there definitely does need to be censorship on stories or YouTubers who make lots of videos about brutal, horrific cases of abuse and neglect and stuff like this, I just watched a video now where apparently there was a group of people that were basically finding disabled people and putting them in and locking them up basically and just torturing them. And then the horrific was that apparently one of the sisters dated someone, and that guy, they ended up getting a hammer, bashing all his toes in and locking him in a cupboard for a couple of days until he died of starvation. And then they found then they put him in some other house, and then they found who did it, and then they put this person in prison for 4.5 years. I think it was longer, but she got let out. And then after, it said that she adopted the sister's child, who was 10 years old, and started beating and abusing her. And it's just an unbelievable story, because it's like, well, I wasn't even allowed to have anything to do with my sister's child, even though I have a 3-bedroomed house and was trying for a child for 2 years, and it makes absolutely no sense why this would happen. So how come that story would be true? You wouldn't give, if someone had gone to prison for smashing in someone's toes and killing that person, you wouldn't just, like, as soon as they leave, be like, okay, you can look after your sister's 10-year-old child. This isn't realistic, and it's not real. It doesn't feel real. And then I was looking at all the pictures, and there were some pictures of smiley people, and there was another picture of someone looking like just looking normal, and the story was saying how this person was actually autistic and couldn't function for herself and couldn't do things. And I'm looking at the picture just thinking, really? I mean, I know my sister's autistic and she can't do much, but it's not like she can't function for herself and stuff. There's different levels of autisticness, and this woman didn't look any different to how my sister looks, and my sister's definitely not in the way that the video was describing. And then they showed some sort of prison cell that looked like, they said, oh, there's a couple there, and there's a couple there, and a couple there. I mean, to me, that kind of looked like where people would live if they had arrest warrants for them and were hiding from the police or something, like, or maybe immigrants or something. I mean, and it just made me feel like how much of this story is true, or have someone just got a bunch of random criminals, some bunch of pictures that they've just found offline, and then put this all together and just made some sort of story. I know there's YouTubers that do that with seals and stuff. You can get like 20 pictures of a seal, some that have spots, some that are brown, some that are very dark in color, some that are a lot bigger, some that are a lot smaller, and then you can just kind of make a story about how this lost seal was saved at a very young age, and then went through this, and then went through this, and then through this, and then really you're thinking that just looks like 10 different seals. Watching this video kind of just reminded me of that, and I'm just like, how do I know that this isn't just some fictional story created for the sake of getting hits? And this is very, very damaging. Lying about P. Diddy and stuff. I mean, the only person that's going to affect is P. Diddy, and it's going to affect him in quite a severe way. If there's all this smear campaign against him, he's going to have to hide for a long time. But yeah, it's just, these sort of stories are far more damaging to society, because it makes you hate people. It makes you see them as just being scumbags or something. And I don't know if it's true or not. And I feel like censorship is if it's just people saying, I have an opinion, abortion's wrong, abortion's right, saying your opinion, I don't feel like there should be censorship on that. If you want to say that you think COVID was a scam, you know what I think COVID was a scam. The only reason why I thought COVID was real is because I had a doctor friend who said that he works in emergency service and that he sees patients all the time, and I felt like that was my confirmation that this was real. And then years later I find out that actually he was a bit of a psychopath and was just lying to me about being a doctor because he thought I would trust him more or something like that. I don't know what his plan was, but I just and now I'm looking back thinking, was this real? I don't know. And if I want to say that, to be censored on things like this, I feel like this is just so, it's wrong. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. If you have beliefs or conspiracies, you should be able to say it, providing you sort of also make it clear that this is just your opinion and your belief. I think it's far more damaging though to society when you see tons and tons of videos about, I don't know, a 12 or perhaps 14-year-old being brutally beaten, ribs crashed, head smashed up, jaw broken, R-worded whilst this abuse was going on, kept in a thing for 3 days, nose, head, stab wounds all over her, and yet was dumped on snow while still alive. I mean, really? Would she still be alive if she's gone through all of that? I mean, I'm not calling bluff on the story. I'm just saying that I feel like there's something that's not truthful here. You know, this doesn't. You wouldn't still be alive after all that, and then just things like that. Well, how do I know any of that is true? How do I know any of that is real? Is this just someone making up some story to get likes, to get hits, to get viewers? I mean, I don't want to watch things like this, but I feel like I would want to know what's going on in the world. And when you've got people that could just be lying and fabricating stories and trying to make out that everyone's far worse than they actually are, you know, it builds a horrible attitude towards others, an attitude towards the human species. And I wasn't watching these videos until last week, and I don't know why I'm doing it now. It doesn't make sense why I'm doing it now. I don't think I would have watched them before because I didn't necessarily believe them, but I feel like I should just say that. I feel like I should say that censorship, if something can be proven to be wrong, you know, if our YouTube going through these videos and actually saying, you know, was this person that person's aunt, was this person really abused? You know, there was one picture of someone that had like scars all over her face, and you know they said that this was one of their victims who was being beaten up regularly for no reason. And why would you beat up someone regularly for no reason whatsoever? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Or maybe this woman was just in a car crash and this is how the scars got there, and maybe this woman has absolutely nothing to do with the case or the people. Maybe the whole thing is fabricated, and there is actually a presenter on this video, so I feel that because of that it makes the whole thing seem a bit more trustworthy, but not really. Because if the world is full of liars, then a presenter would be willing to go on board and say this is the truth. And I think his excuse for doing it would be that even if the story isn't true, it is true for some other people. You know, this has happened to someone, and therefore, even if this story isn't true. I mean, I've heard so many of these cases, and I'm rarely seeing the same case pop up, unless I'm actually watching a video, and sometimes they have like a backup on the side. But I don't know. I think censorship of opinions shouldn't be censored, but if people are giving out wrong information, if they're factually taking images of people that maybe are just in jail for stealing something, and someone's making a story about that person, saying that they're a vicious murderer that's done a bunch of terrible things, and what this woman got her youngest sister's pregnant just so that she could make money off the government for childcare. I mean, I'm pretty sure the government don't even give that much money for childcare, and having kids is a very big responsibility. So getting your 10-year-old sister knocked up for the sake of childcare just doesn't. This story isn't adding up. This story isn't making sense to me. I'll put the link in it, but I don't know. In some ways, I feel like there's a lot of detail in the story, so it's slightly convincing, and there's a lot of pictures to back it up, and there's lots of images. But you know, I'm watching it, I'm thinking, is this the truth? Is there someone on? Are there people on YouTube that are actually going through these videos to see if these videos are actual truth? Are real, or are they just fake? Are they just fabricated stories with false narratives and pictures of people that maybe even died 10 years ago? Hence, they're not going to be coming forward and be like, "No, I didn't do that. That story's not about me." If they're not watching this video, you know, there's loads of people in the world. They're not going to be. There's the chance of them coming across this video is very slim. And if they died 10 years ago, the chance of someone coming across and being like, "I know that woman," that too is also slim. Or if there might be a bunch of people in the comment section trying to tell people that this story is false and these pictures are all false. But if there's 1,000 pictures, 1,000 comments on a video, I'm not going to go for searching through every single comment to make sure that what there isn't someone. I'm watching a lot of videos where people are lying about God and Christ, and I'm trying to constantly contact the people that are writing them to say, no, I'm God, and these aren't my views, these aren't my opinions, but no one's listening to me. I'm just getting buried and drowned out, and I've been drowned out for 11 years about my views and my opinions, and things like this have made me wonder, are there a bunch of just false stories and false narratives out there, and people are being like, hey, why is someone using my images on something that I have nothing to do with? And and I can imagine them trying to get through to these people. Is there some sort of button where you can report that? I think there is a button that you can use to report it, but so YouTube must have a clue on who's doing, if people are creating false stories, YouTube must have an idea on who's doing it and who's not. So if I was to talk to them, I would like to know how many people have made a video that's just full of lies. Are you keeping a check on it? I don't think. I think it's fine to give opinions, but it's not fine to just make up stories or say things that are completely unfactually true. Maybe if YouTube had like a YouTube documents section where they actually find interesting documentaries that are on YouTube and actually put them in like a separate section. So you've got the sort of open-minded, this is the general YouTube use, and then you have YouTube music and YouTube documents, where the YouTube documents are actually videos that have been watched and maybe even watched by the people involved in the case. You're the one who dealt with this case, you're the one who dealt with this prosecution. Type in the names of these people and see how accurate they actually are, and do some sort of test on how accurate these stories are, because you can't just have people just writing stories in regards to other people. It's fine to give your own opinions. There should not be anything wrong about you giving your opinions. But if people are writing stories about other people that are completely fabricated and lies, then that shouldn't be allowed. Unless, of course, it's with Diddy. I think whatever's going on with the fabrications there, I feel like that is kind of part of the test. But anyway.